Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Eliezer Malamed Shlita. Well, we're coming to the end of a week. Shabbos Parshas Emor is upon us, and I hope everyone has enjoyed our week of learning. I certainly have. We continue to daven for Chayalei Tzvagana Yisrael, or for Shalem L'chol Am Yisrael that need it, safe return of our hostages, and again we dedicate our learning Le'ilu Nishmas, Seren Daniel Shimon ben Harav Daron V'Sheli Hashem Yekum Damo. Continuing with our laws of Zecher LeChurban, Din Kona Bayis. Adam Shekona Bayis Shlo Hosir Bo Amalom Misyedes. So let's say you bought a house that was complete, but it didn't have the space left aside Zecher LeChurban like we had discussed. Im Zeh Shebanas Habayis Hu Yehudi. If the person who built the house is Jewish, Kivan shehaisim utelas alav mitzvah l'shayar amal amal lo siad o shayar v'lo shayar nimtza she'osa amal siades b'isur. So since the person who built the house was Jewish and he had a responsibility to leave this part unfinished, and he didn't do so, so in other words, he finished it and didn't leave the part Zecher LeChurban, so it seems to be that one Amma by Amma area, which should have been left unfinished, was finished unlawfully. And therefore, the person who buys the house should unfinish it. In other words, you have to remove the plaster. But if the person who built the house was a non-Jew, then since he did not have the obligation to do so when you buy the home, then you're not required to do so either. Ve'ein ze mishana min habanaim in balabayis Yehudi gam poalim nochrim. It doesn't matter whether, let's say, the owner or the builder of the house is Jewish, but the workers are non-Jewish. Hol vehem bonim b'shvilo, since they are working for the Jewish boss, so to speak. So then his responsibility, regardless of actually doing the work, but since he owns the property and he's responsible for it, so he has to leave the part unfinished. And if they did so anyway, if they finished it and they plastered the whole thing, then the owner is responsible to create a Amma by Amma memorial space near the doorway, again, either to undo the plaster in some way. Some say that this obligation to leave the unfinished Amma by Amma, the Amma square without plaster, without being finished, is on the one building his house. But if, let's say, this is your business, you build a house on spec, you're a contractor, and you're doing so that you could sell it, even if your clients are Jewish, ein alav mitzvah lahashir amal amal lo sid. Then you don't have the requirement to leave this space unfinished. Because they're not for his personal use. He's doing it as a business. And therefore, it would come out that the person who purchases this home then also would not be required to leave it unfinished. V'rak mikan ve'elech, only going forward, im yirtza hadayar litzboas beiso, chovelav lahashir sama small shemul hapesach lo litzeva. Let's say he wanted to paint the whole house, then he should leave one spot unfinished. And he brings an interesting tshuva from Igros Moshe in Orach Chaim Gimel Siman Pevav. Amnam im hadira niknesa mehakablan od lifnei siyuma. If the apartment or if the home was acquired from the contractor before it was completed, gam l'shituzut tzarich lahashir ba'amal lo mesiyedes. And therefore, in other words, if a Jewish person buys it from a contractor, so if the contractor is not required because it's not for his own personal use, but if it's not yet complete and a Jewish person buys it, then he's obligated to tell the contractor to leave it unfinished. And therefore, if they did finish it, then he has to undo it. Some say that in any event, if the contractor is Jewish, he's required to leave this portion unfinished. And if he does so, if he does finish it completely, then the purchaser is required to undo it. He says this is how we should carry ourselves practically. And if a person buys a house from someone who did not leave it unfinished, a lot of double negatives here, you can get yourself confused. But if he bought it from someone who did not leave it unfinished, and whoever buys it should try his best to unfinish it. In other words, to undo the finishing. Shehol balabayis harishon hu Yehudi, since the first owner was Jewish, hadiri hischayva b'shir ama Zecher LeChurban, then the home was required to have this space left. Now that you're a Jewish person buying it from him, then even though he didn't do it, you should make every effort to do so. And he quotes this as in the name of the Magen Avram and many poskim and many acharonim. Very interesting halacha, but one that, again, you'll find, if you probably don't notice it, but if you look carefully, in many, many Jewish buildings, particularly in public buildings, schools, shuls, etc., you will find that these places are left unfinished, and you ever wonder why. You'd think that maybe it was a lousy contractor or a lousy painter, but no, this is for a reason. It's all done Zecher LeChurban. So we thank everybody for joining us this week, wishing everybody a peaceful and restful Shabbos. Please continue davening Chayalei Tzvah Israel, safe return of our hostages, Full Shalom L'Am Yisrael, that needed, and dedicate our learning Leila Nishmat, Saren Daniel Shimon, Ben Harav Duran Vasheli, Hashem Yikum Damo. We'll see you here next week. Shabbat Shalom.